In section 14, we're going to install the belt-driven accessories, the fan counter shaft, and the alternator on the passenger side. I want to remind you that the high temp fan is installed temporarily so we can measure for belt height. We'll final install it when we do the radiator shroud fitting in section 18. So let's get started.
Refer to the construction manual, section 14, for components and prints. The fan counter shaft components as received from Rotorway. Temporarily install the fan and hub with the lower belt. Use the snap ring located on E23 card 1 to hold the fan in place. Reference the print E31-2000 when installing the countershaft assembly. Check the fit of the bearings and pulleys on the shaft. The bearings are a slip fit. The pulleys may need to be honed for a proper and snug fit. The top bearing and pulley are normally set all the way to the end of the shaft. The small pulley is the top pulley. You can use Cleco clamps to hold the flanges together. Place the pulleys and bearings to match the pulley on the secondary and the fan hub pulley belt groove. Place the assembly in position to determine the correct location for the top pulley first. Check for straight belt alignment. After verifying the fit, you will need to drill a bolt hole to pin the pulley to the shaft. Final hole size must be a letter D bit and reamer. Use a drill press and V-blocks to drill these holes. Install the top pulley with a bolt, part number E00-2412. and use Loctite 609 to secure the pulley and top bearing to the shaft. Make sure the shaft end is flush with the bearing as shown. Place the lower pulley on the shaft and determine its position and mark the shaft. Drill the hole that pins the lower pulley to the shaft. We will Loctite the bearing to the shaft after we check the fit on the airframe bracket. Loop the belts over the assembly and mount the assembly on the airframe brackets. The lower bearing flanges may be placed above or below the airframe bracket. Use the aluminum spacers as required. The spacers may be trimmed or not used as necessary. Allow the Loctite to set. With a hammer and punch, set the lock rings. Tighten the screws on each ring. Note: in this video series, the electrical water pump will be attached to the airframe in section 18 with installation of coolant hoses. Use prints E30-2000 and E31-2000 when installing the alternator. Parts as received from Rotorway. Mask the opening of the alternator to prevent metal chips from entering. Then cut off the excess mount flange along the scribed line. Cut the existing connector off the yellow wire on the bottom. Replace the connector with a single pin connector on E35 card 1. Run a ground wire off the negative terminal on the alternator. Mount the alternator on the airframe bracket. Check the vertical alignment between the alternator pulley and the top belt groove on the secondary. Use 1/2 inch washers as shims to achieve alignment. Install the bolt from the bottom. Use 5/16 inch fender washers in the large opening of the bolt hole top to secure the alternator to the airframe. Fabricate the belt adjusting strap on E42 card 1. Install and tension the belt. It should be tight enough that you can turn the pulley by hand. The 5/16 inch bolt that holds the alternator bracket to the airframe is on E29 card 1. On your final assembly, this bolt must be safety wired to the strap. Remove the paint at the bolt hole and secure the wire with a 3/16 inch bolt.